Hello Army, welcome back to K Heart Channel. Nobody inside Allegiant Stadium expected the concert to suddenly become this emotional. One second, Taehyung was smiling while talking to Army, and the next, his voice started shaking as he confessed that Las Vegas was the city he missed the most during military service. The entire stadium went silent. Taehyung admitted he used to replay old Vegas concert videos late at night because the memories here never left his heart. Fans could already see tears building in his eyes while he tried to stay calm in front of thousands of people. But what completely destroyed Army emotionally was Jungkook's reaction beside him. Jungkook couldn't even look away from Taehyung for a second, and then suddenly, right in front of the entire stadium, he stepped closer and pulled Taehyung into a hug. What happened immediately after that made the whole crowd completely lose control. The moment Jungkook pulled Kim Taehyung into that unexpected hug, the entire atmosphere inside Allegiant Stadium completely changed. For a few seconds, nobody in the crowd even screamed. It was almost like the entire stadium froze emotionally at the exact same time. Kim Taehyung had just finished confessing how deeply Las Vegas stayed in his heart during military service. His voice was soft, emotional, and filled with memories he clearly struggled to talk about openly. Fans could already hear emotions building in his words when he admitted that late at night, he would sometimes search old BTS Las Vegas concert videos just to feel connected to those happier moments again. And while Kim Taehyung tried his best to stay composed in front of thousands of Army, Jungkook stood beside him silently the entire time, watching him carefully, listening to every word. Fans later said Jungkook's expression alone already looked emotional before the hug even happened. He wasn't smiling the way he normally does during moments. Instead, he looked completely focused on Taehyung, almost like he understood how difficult this confession truly was for him. Then came the moment nobody was prepared for. Kim Taehyung paused briefly while speaking, lowering his head slightly as if trying to stop himself from becoming overwhelmed emotionally. The stadium became so quiet that fans could hear people crying around them. And suddenly, Jungkook moved closer. Without warning, without saying anything, Jungkook gently pulled Kim Taehyung into a hug right there in front of tens of thousands of Army. The reaction inside the stadium became instant chaos. Screams exploded everywhere at once. Some fans immediately burst into tears. Others simply stood frozen in shock while staring at the giant screen above the stage, replaying the emotional moment live. But what hurt fans emotionally the most was not just the hug itself. It was the way Kim Taehyung reacted after Jungkook embraced him. For a brief second, Taehyung completely stopped speaking. His expression changed instantly, almost like all the emotions he had been trying to hold back suddenly became impossible to hide anymore. Fans close to the stage later said Taehyung looked genuinely comforted the moment Jungkook wrapped his arms around him. And Jungkook did not let go quickly either. The hug lasted only several seconds, but somehow it felt much longer emotionally inside the stadium. Jungkook held him carefully, almost protectively, while the crowd around them completely lost control. Army Online later replayed the same moment millions of times. Not because it looked dramatic, but because it felt real. Nothing about the interaction seemed planned for cameras or fan service. The emotions looked too natural, too honest. Fans said it felt like witnessing a private emotional moment accidentally happen in front of the entire world. Even after they slowly pulled away from the hug, the emotional tension between them remained impossible to ignore. Kim Taehyung looked down for a moment afterward, smiling shyly while trying to calm himself again. Meanwhile, Jungkook stayed close beside him, still watching Taehyung carefully, as if making sure he was okay before the concert continued. That single detail completely destroyed fans emotionally online later that night. Because Jungkook never once tried to make the moment about himself. He simply reacted, naturally, emotionally, honestly. And somehow, that made everything hurt even more. As the members prepared to continue the show, fans noticed that Kim Taehyung's energy had completely changed after the hug. He looked lighter somehow, calmer, like the emotional weight he carried while talking about Vegas had softened after Jungkook comforted him. But the stadium itself never emotionally recovered. Throughout the rest of the concert, Fans continued crying every time the cameras showed Taehyung and Jungkook standing near each other again. Social media feeds exploded with emotional reactions, slowed clips, and fan comments describing the moment as one of the most unforgettable taekook interactions ever witnessed live. Some ARMY said the hug felt spontaneous. Others believed Jungkook simply could not bear watching Taehyung struggle emotionally in front of everyone any longer. But no matter how fans interpreted the moment, everyone agreed on one thing. The emotions between Kim Taehyung and Jungkook that night felt impossible to fake. And according to fans who attended the concert in person, what happened backstage immediately after that emotional Vegas confession and hug may have been even more emotional than the moment ARMY saw on stage. The emotional hug between Kim Taehyung and Jungkook should have lasted only a few seconds. But somehow, for everyone inside Allegiant Stadium that night, it felt like time completely stopped. Even after Jungkook slowly pulled away, the crowd still could not recover from what they had just witnessed. The screams across the stadium became louder than before, but mixed within them were the sounds of people openly crying. Fans held their phones with shaking hands while trying to process the emotional moment unfolding in front of them. And in the middle of all that noise, Kim Taehyung looked completely overwhelmed. For a brief moment, he could not even continue speaking. The giant screen above the stage captured every detail, the way Taehyung looked down while smiling softly to himself, the way he briefly covered his face, as if trying to hide how emotional he had become, and the way Jungkook remained standing close beside him instead of stepping away. That detail stayed in fans' minds the most. Because Jungkook could have easily turned the moment playful to reduce the emotional tension. He could have joked around the way BTS members usually do during emotional moments. But he didn't. Instead, Jungkook stayed unusually quiet, watching Kim Taehyung carefully, almost protectively. Fans later admitted that Jungkook's silence somehow made the entire moment even more heartbreaking. It felt like he understood that this was not a moment to joke about. Kim Taehyung's emotions about Las Vegas were genuine, deep, and connected to memories he had quietly carried for a long time. As the audience slowly calmed down again, Taehyung finally spoke once more. His voice sounded weaker now, softer than before. He admitted that returning to Las Vegas after military service felt emotional in ways he never expected. He said there were nights during enlistment when he genuinely missed standing on stage with BTS and ARMY so much that he would replay old concert clips alone just to feel close to those memories again. And among all those memories, Vegas stayed with him the strongest. The crowd immediately began crying again. Fans close to the stage later said Kim Taehyung looked like someone trying his best not to completely break down emotionally in front of everyone. He smiled while speaking, but his eyes told a different story entirely. And Jungkook noticed every single detail. At one point, Taehyung paused again while looking out into the audience, almost lost in thought. Before the silence could become awkward, Jungkook quietly leaned closer toward him and softly said something off microphone that cameras failed to catch clearly. But whatever Jungkook whispered caused Kim Taehyung to suddenly laugh through his emotions. Not loudly. Just enough for his shoulders to relax slightly. That tiny reaction instantly became another viral moment online later that night. Fans everywhere began trying to guess what Jungkook had whispered to him. Some believed he was trying to comfort Taehyung privately. Others thought he simply wanted to make him smile before he became too emotional to continue speaking. But the truth remained unknown. And somehow, that mystery made fans even more emotional. Because the entire interaction between them that night felt incredibly personal. Not staged. Not exaggerated. Just honest emotion happening naturally in front of thousands of people. As the concert continued, ARMY noticed something else that made the night unforgettable. Jungkook stayed unusually close to Kim Taehyung for the rest of the show. During transitions between songs, during ending speeches, even while walking across the stage, Jungkook's attention seemed to keep returning toward Taehyung naturally. Fans started catching tiny moments everywhere. Small glances. Quiet smiles. Moments where Jungkook subtly slowed down so Taehyung could walk beside him. Moments where Taehyung looked noticeably calmer whenever Jungkook stayed near. None of these interactions were dramatic on their own. But after the emotional confession and hug, every small detail suddenly carried emotional weight. By the time the final songs of the concert began, the entire stadium already felt emotionally exhausted. Many fans admitted later that they could barely focus on the performances anymore because they were still thinking about Taehyung's confession and Jungkook's reaction earlier in the night. Then came the ending ment, and somehow, things became even more emotional. As the members stood together thanking ARMY one final time, Kim Taehyung looked around the stadium slowly, almost like he did not want the night to end. The expression on his face carried both happiness and sadness at the same time. Happiness for finally returning to the city he loved so much, and sadness, knowing the moment would eventually become another memory. The audience noticed it immediately. So did Jungkook. Before fans could fully process what was happening, Jungkook quietly moved closer beside Taehyung again while the members continued speaking. This time, he didn't hug him. He simply stood there shoulder to shoulder beside him while Taehyung stared out at the crowd. And for some reason, that simple moment hurt ARMY emotionally even more than the hug earlier. Because it felt silent, comfortable, natural. Like Jungkook understood that Taehyung did not need words anymore. Only someone beside him. As the final fireworks exploded above Allegiant Stadium and the concert slowly came to an end, fans thought the emotional night was finally over. But according to several staff-related fan accounts and fans near the extended stage, something happened after the members started leaving the stage together that made the Vegas moment between Kim Taehyung and Jungkook even more unforgettable. Later online, as the final fireworks faded above Allegiant Stadium, most fans believed the emotional night between Kim Taehyung and Jungkook had finally reached its end. But they were wrong. Because according to fans near the extended stage and several videos that surfaced online afterward, one of the most emotional moments of the entire night happened after the cameras had already started pulling away. While the members slowly walked around the stadium saying goodbye to ARMY, Kim Taehyung suddenly became quieter again. The excitement of the ending meant slowly disappeared from his expression, replaced by something more emotional. Almost like reality was finally hitting him that the night he had waited so long for was ending. Fans noticed him looking around the stadium repeatedly. The lights, the crowd, the ocean of purple across Las Vegas. It looked like he was trying to memorize everything before leaving the stage. And somehow, Jungkook noticed immediately. Several fan cams captured Jungkook turning toward Taehyung while the other members continued waving to fans. At first, Jungkook simply watched him quietly from a short distance away. But then, after seeing Taehyung standing there silently for several seconds, Jungkook slowly walked back toward him again instead of moving ahead with the others. That tiny decision completely destroyed ARMY emotionally later online. Because he didn't have to go back. The show was already ending. The members were already beginning to leave the stage. But Jungkook still returned to Taehyung anyway. And when he finally reached him, something happened that cameras almost missed entirely. Jungkook gently leaned closer toward Kim Taehyung and softly spoke to him again, off microphone. Nobody knows exactly what he said. But fans immediately noticed Taehyung's reaction. The emotional expression on his face suddenly changed. He looked at Jungkook for a brief second, then smiled quietly while lowering his head again, almost like he was trying to hide how affected he felt by those words. The moment lasted barely seconds. Yet fans could not stop replaying it afterward. Because after everything that had happened earlier, the emotional Vegas confession, the shoulder touch, the hug in front of thousands of ARMY, this final interaction somehow felt even more personal. There were no dramatic cameras focused on them anymore. No official spotlight. No huge reactions from the crowd. Just two people standing together at the end of an emotional night while one quietly comforted the other again when nobody expected it. Fans later said that was the exact moment the entire Vegas story stopped feeling like a concert moment and started feeling deeply human. As BTS slowly prepared to leave the stage completely, ARMY noticed one final detail that immediately exploded online later that night. Kim Taehyung did not walk away immediately. Instead, he paused near the edge of the stage one last time, staring out into the stadium while thousands of fans screamed his name. The expression on his face looked emotional, almost overwhelmed by everything he had experienced that night. And standing beside him once again was Jungkook. Not speaking, not trying to draw attention, just quietly remaining there next to him. Fans close to the stage later claimed Jungkook briefly placed his hand against Taehyung's back before they finally started walking off together. The cameras barely captured it clearly, but the possibility alone was enough to send ARMY into complete emotional chaos online. Because throughout the entire night, Jungkook's actions remained consistent. Every single time Kim Taehyung became emotional, Jungkook naturally moved closer to him. Not for attention, not for cameras, but almost instinctively. And fans noticed all of it. Hours later, social media became flooded with emotional edits, slowed fan cams, and fan theories about the unforgettable Vegas concert moment. Millions of people replayed the same clips repeatedly, Taehyung confessing how much Las Vegas meant to him.